Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door, and today I'm going to be sharing 15 fall DIYs with you all. So for this DIY, you're going to need a grapevine wreath like this. You can get these at Hobby Lobby for about $5.99 a piece. A couple of fall leaf bushes like these. I got these at Walmart. Then you're going to add some berry picks as well as some pumpkin picks in the colors and styles of your choice. These are from Dollar Tree and most of them come back year after year. I even had some random greenery that I included in this as well that I had lying around. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to cut the leaves individually, and in order for them not to fall out of their stems, you may even need to add a little bit of hot glue, but then you're going to add all the individual leaves throughout the wreath, spreading them out evenly. And the key to this, honestly, is adding layers. So once you work with the leaves, you want to add the next element. And as far as this is concerned, I added the berries next. And what I did was I chose one color of berries and spread it evenly throughout the entire wreath first, placing them exactly where I wanted them to go. Then I'd come in and I would secure them with hot glue after I knew exactly where I wanted to place them. This makes it a little bit easier for you instead of just placing them first with hot glue, because then if you want to move them around, you have the ability to do so if they're not glued first. Then once those are nice and set, I come in with the second color of berries and I start adding them throughout, again spacing them out evenly, making sure I'm happy where they're ending up, and then I come back and hot glue them in. Same thing goes for the next layer. I love these raffia braided pumpkins, and I do know for a fact that they are back at Dollar Tree again this year. They are so beautiful. You just have to make sure that you add quite a bit of hot glue to them because they are a little bit heavy. And again, just place them exactly where you want them to go and spread them out evenly throughout the wreath. And while some of the pumpkins that they have these little clips in the back, I do like to add a little bit of extra hot glue in the actual mouth of the clip just to be sure that it is secured on there, especially if you have a door or you want to place this outside and it's not really protected from the elements. You want to make sure that if there's any wind or if you're constantly opening and closing that front door, that they won't just simply fall out every time you do. The wreath was actually pretty good here. However, I did want to continue adding more greenery and different elements throughout just to give it a more full look. And again, I just had these little pieces and I split them up and added them throughout the wreath. Then finally, for the little leather pumpkins, they were actually just individual pumpkins on their own. So I had to cut some of the stems that I had still left over from the previous bushes and actually insert them in the little pumpkins so that I can create my very own pick. And of course, finally, I would insert them in the end. Now, that's basically it for this wreath, and here is how it turned out. And this was actually quite a stunning wreath in person, and my mom ended up actually keeping this one. Now, I know you've seen these hurricane glass vases at Dollar Tree, and they're pretty simple. However, one of the things you can do for your fall season is dress them up a little bit. And you can do this several ways. I'm going to show you how to do it with some leather. However, you can do this with cardstock or scrapbook paper as well. It's just a nice way to change them up for the season. Now I'm using my Cricut here in order to create a custom pattern of these really pretty maple leaves that I'm going to eventually cut out and create like a wraparound for the vase. However, if you are using scrapbook paper, you can always use a scrapbook shape hole punch. Now, if you want a simpler idea without any cutouts, I will show you one in just a sec. And basically all you do once this is cut out is apply double-sided tape to the inside of it and then wrap it around your vase. And that is basically it. Once you add a candle inside, it will look so beautiful for your fall decor. Of course, I like to take my time and make sure that everything is nice and tightly wrapped around the vase and that both edges come up right up to each other perfectly. And here is another example using pumpkins. So if you are into Halloween decor, you can use this for that as well. Here is how they look. Now, as promised, here is my non-perforated version. And what I'm using here is one of those Dollar Tree faux leather sheets. And you can use a more of a fall color because they do have some. However, here I'm just using white for this demonstration. And you're going to want to wrap it around the vase as you see here and make your markings to where there's like about an inch left over on both sides when you wrap it around. Make your marking and cut it. Make sure to use a ruler to keep your cut nice and straight. And then once it's done, wrap it around your vase in order to make sure that it is the length that you want. Now, if the ends are not even, make sure to put those very nicely together like this and cut them so that they are nice and straight. Now, after that's done, you're going to want to take some glue. For this one, I decided to use hot glue and just seal that edge in order to make sure it stays together. Next, to add a little bit more of a detail to it, I decided to take two gold push pins, as you see right here. I cut off the little pin part because it wasn't necessary to have for this, and then I glued both of them onto the leather piece in order to add a little nice detail to it. I did do this on both sides, and once these are secure, here is how it turns out. And as you can see, I styled this with some white pumpkins. Now, this next one is really simple and it's also using that Dollar Tree faux leather as well. They have these little napkin rings in the party section. And what I did was I removed that center raffia looking piece and I just kind of left the adhesive that stays on it. And then what I did was I used that section that I pulled off in order to use that as a template to cut the little piece that's going to go back on there. I want to make sure that I cover the entire area where the adhesive is. That way you don't see it. And it does help to fold it over and just do a smaller cut to keep everything nice and straight. Then all you do is wrap it around with a little bit of extra glue if absolutely necessary. And that's it. You have some fall inspired napkin rings for your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, this DIY is one of my favorites because it is a fall look for less. It was inspired by these Ballard Designs wheat stacks, and they are so simple and easy to make. So I found this dried grass bundle at Hobby Lobby and it was even on sale. They have an entire dried floral section and they are very inexpensive. Now, what you want to do is open up the package and then you want to start bringing out each individual piece so that they are nice and even and the little fuzzy tops are all on the same level as you see here. Now, once you have a good bunch, you want to cut off the excess because these are actually a lot longer than what you need. And what I like to do is I like to add on those stems that I just removed from the bottoms and add them to put inside of the bunch to make the bottom even stiffer. That way they can stand up on their own. So basically what you do once you have all of them cut out, you lay the entire piece across and kind of wrap the exterior ones with the grass tops around those stems in the center. So again, you don't really see that they're in there, but it does provide a thicker base as you can see here. And what I'm doing here is just wrapping everything around with a rubber band to hold securely. Next, I trimmed the bottom pieces so that everything was nice and even. And if there were any extra bare spots in the center that I needed to cover up, I would just add the little top piece of the grass with a little bit of hot glue and insert it in the center again to make it look a little bit fuller. Then, in order to hide those rubber bands, I just took some green ribbon. Of course, you can use any color ribbon of your choosing and just wrapped it around and hot glued it to keep it together. And that's basically all you do for this DIY. I ended up creating two of them out of one bunch. And of course, I can't resist the comparison. Their bunches were $43.20 for both of them, while mine only cost me $4.79 for two. Now, one of the things that I love to do is revamp my old pumpkins. Instead of going out and buying new ones absolutely every year, that can get expensive. And of course, you have to think about where you're going to store them. And here I have these removable stencils that you can get at Dollar Tree. These are a little older, but I'm pretty sure you can find some new ones this year. And this one is just of basic feathers. You don't even have to have a fall theme removable sticker at that. You can use any pattern you choose. And all you want to do is apply them to your pumpkin and add the color of choice to paint on the stencil. I decided to go with a metallic green for this one, and I think it gives it a very unique look. You can either paint the entire pumpkin with your stencils or you can just do the top like I did here. And I think honestly, the fact that it's imperfect gives it a little bit more charm, and it honestly turned out so pretty. Now, this one's an oldie, but such a goodie. One of my favorite DIYs of all time. And this was when I first started out, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people have not seen this DIY. Dollar Tree carries a lot of votive candle holders like this, and a lot of them come in these colors for fall. Now, they also have these as well. And while they're very simple, I decided to give them a little update and spray paint them black so that they would look a little bit more fallish. Now, when you spray paint anything, you always want to start with it upside down first, and then you want to finish it off by spray painting it right side up. That way, you don't mess up the top when you flip it over. Then you want to take some wooden beads, and you can find those at Dollar Tree too. You want to create a ring like this that goes around the top of this part of the candle holder, and you'll see why in just a sec. Now I threaded those beads with some baker's twine again from Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to add several more spaced out evenly throughout the beads. And I'm going to add more beads to those. Then I'm going to attach them. Now I like to do things in odd numbers whenever I do something like this. And for this, I created five of them. And you will need to make sure that there's extra baker's twine on either end. Next, we're going to create another beaded ring. This time, though, I am using floral wire for this. You're going to want to make a loop at the end so that the last bead does not fall out, and you're going to string the rest. Now, before you close that end, make sure that it goes around the top portion of the larger candle holder. And once you confirm this, make sure to close the ends using that wire and wrapping it around so that it's nice and tight. Next, you're going to take those stringed beads from earlier and you're going to place them along the perimeter of this ring, keeping in mind to keep them spaced out evenly. And then you're going to tie them on to this ring. You're going to do this both for this one as well as the smaller one that we did earlier. Now, at this point, I do want to place the smaller ring on the bottom of that candle holder as well. That way I can keep my place and see exactly how far they are spaced apart from each other. And here is another angle of how I'm doing that here and how I'm attaching each one. Basically, I am just wrapping the baker's twine around and I am tightening up the twine so that you don't really see it and only see the beads. Now, after this, you can certainly add some permanent glue and glue both candle holders together to create one taller candle holder. I didn't end up gluing them because I like to use these separately. However, this is how it turned out. And I think this can be used all year long. However, with those votive candle holders and their colors, I think this is something that would be perfect for an accent table or a centerpiece or a coffee table during this fall season. Tell me what you think about this look. By the way, if you like that fall sign to the left of these candle holders, I do have a video creating that, and I'll link it down below in the description box so you can check it out. Now, if you're enjoying this video, I did want to mention that I do have another video of 20 amazing fall DIYs that you guys can check out as well. I'll make sure to link it below as well as pinned in the top comment. Now, this next one is another Look for Less dupe that was inspired by this beautiful pumpkin door swag from Grandin Road. Each one of these costs $149 a piece, but we're going to make it for a lot cheaper. Now, we're going to start off with these football signs from Dollar Tree, and this is going to be our backer for these swags. And then, of course, we're going to add some pine cones, some pumpkins of your color choice. There are those gorgeous raffia braided pumpkins again, and you want some mini pumpkins as well. I got this garland at Hobby Lobby for half off, which I think is a great deal, as well as some of these picks. I decided to start gluing the pumpkins first because they were a little bit heavier and I wanted to make sure that they were secure. I also wanted to make sure that I glued them on to each other as well, not only just the backing, so that I had more than one place where they were nice and glued on. And then I began to take the leaves from that large garland that I had and began placing leaves all over the place. As you can see here, one of my daughters decided to help me. The girls always love to join in sometimes and give me ideas and pointers and even help place some of the DIY pieces. So, as you can see, I'm filling in different areas and adding pumpkins everywhere and just filling it up, making it as full and nice as possible. And the great thing about this is that you can make it as full or as tall as you want it. And here I am just adding a little bit of length at the bottom. And that's pretty much all there was to it. The great thing is that the backing already had the little hanging strip and they were ready to hang up on the wall. And to break out the comparison, for two of these swags, if you would have bought them, they would have come out to $298, and I only spent $30 in supplies to make both of mine. Now, this next DIY is not specifically a fall DIY. However, I do think that wineries have a fall feel to them, and visiting them during this time is just perfection. So, I had all these wine bottle corks, and no, we did not drink all of them. I did know somebody who worked at a restaurant, and they had a lot of wine servings, and I got all of these for free. And I want to share how you can create a beautiful wreath out of these corks. I have had one for several years now, and this was actually one of my very first DIYs on my blog back then when I did not have a YouTube channel, and I love it today as much as I did the first day I made it. And yes, you will need a straw wreath form for this one. This one's a little bit smaller, but you can make this any size you want. Now, bust out those glue sticks because you're going to need quite a few of them. And we're going to do 2 layers of corks. And the first layer is going to be straight all the way around, and you will see how I place them in just a minute. And if you're wondering why we're using a straw wreath, first of all, the corks adhere very nicely to this, and two, it acts as a camouflage backing in case you do see little peeks of it through the corks. You're going to want to go all the way around and all the way to the inside center of your wreath and make sure every little area is covered as much as possible. This is what it should look like after the first layer. Now, if you prefer this look, go ahead and leave it like this. It is perfectly fine. However, I do like a more of a random approach. And so what I do is I begin the second layer as you see here, and I begin to just randomly place them throughout the top of the first layer of corks. And something that I like to keep in mind, and just a quick tip, I like to use the lesser pretty or the corks that don't have as nice of patterns or even any patterns at all on the first layer. And I like to keep the more interesting, pretty patterns for the top layer. And I make sure that they're face up so that you do get to see the variation between all of them. Also, these are more of the synthetic corks, and it's just what I had on hand left over. I did create my original wreath with the actual corks from wine bottles. And while this is a little repetitive, of course, it is super easy to do, and here is how it will turn out. Now, it doesn't have to be that our home decor is the only thing that dresses up for fall. Of course, we can too, and I personally love making personalized tees and sweaters for any occasion. And here I am making my own. Now, this shirt I did get from Hobby Lobby. They have great shirts and sweatshirts always on sale, and I selected a pre-made pumpkin season little design on Cricut, and I made this myself. However, if you go online to Amazon or even Etsy, there are a ton of options of ready to press transfers, and you don't even need a press. All you need is an iron. And they have sublimation and they have iron on vinyl. They have so many different options and they're so inexpensive. Simply get yourself a sweatshirt from your local craft store or even online at like a Jiffy shirts supplier. They're very inexpensive that way, and you can create several different tops for the season. I think it turned out so cute. I made this last year and it still looks just as good this year. And if you're like me and have a wicked sense of humor or enjoy crime mystery podcasts, then something a little bit more Halloween inspired like this t-shirt is for you. Now, if you're not one to actually, put on anything decorative for fall per se, you can always do the same thing with a tote. And I love canvas totes. And this is basically the same process. You can either create your very own decal from like a Cricut design space, or you can purchase pre-made ones online as well and simply just iron them on to your fall tote. I use 3 different types of iron-on vinyl for this to get this look, and I think this is perfect for when you go to fall festivals and you decide to buy a few things. You don't have to carry all those plastic bags around. You can just put everything in this awesome tote, and it would just be just perfect to carry around for fall. All right, so let's update more pumpkins. These ones are coming at you from Dollar Tree as well. You will need some raffia bundles in the colors that you prefer. And you basically need to start wrapping your raffia all around your pumpkin. Now, I had painted this pumpkin a little bit more neutral in case some of the pumpkin peeks through some of the raffia. Now, this isn't completely necessary, especially if you have a pumpkin that's a little bit more neutral than the one that I started out with. And you're going to continue doing this until you completely cover that pumpkin with that raffia. Now, after the pumpkin is completely covered with the raffia, you want to add the stem back. You can add the original, or you can make a new one, or you can use twigs from your yard. And that is basically it for this DIY. Now, here is yet another way you can update your old pumpkins, and this one is actually using yarn. Some people like to use different textiles, and this one was probably one of my favorites that I've done. Now, what you will need is an old pumpkin, any size or color. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a hole at both the top and the bottom of the pumpkin. And you're going to gather little bunches of yarn and you're going to hot glue it to the inside of the hole. Bring the yarn down and do the same thing to the bottom of the pumpkin. So you want to just stretch that yarn over the side of the pumpkin as you see here. And basically, you're going to continue doing this all the way around the pumpkin until you cover most of it. Next, you're going to take another bundle of yarn and you're going to create a braid this time. And during those indentations that you have on the pumpkins that kind of go inward, you're going to put these braids in those to cover up those little gaps in the yarn. And this is going to give it like a knitted sweater look without the actual knitting. Lastly, you're going to add the stem. You can use a new one, the one that originally came with the pumpkin, or even any twigs from your yard. And that's basically it. Here is another fall inspired look for less, and these are these flameless pumpkin candles from Pottery Barn. And you're just going to need some different size pumpkin from Dollar Tree. Now you can use as many or as little as you want. You can definitely keep them the same color they came in. However, I was trying to copy that Pottery Barn look, so I decided to paint them. You can use any kind of paint, and for these, I was actually using acrylic paint from the craft store. I had to give them more than one coat, and in order to give them that same kind of velvety look, while the paint was still tacky, I decided to add flour to the tops of them by just simply sprinkling it over different areas and in different consistencies. Then, when the pumpkins were dry, I took a brush and I began to wipe the pumpkins off, removing any excess flour that had not stuck onto them. Next, I needed to add the holes at the top so I can add some battery-powered tea lights. And I started with the scissors, but I ended up using one of my husband's circular, smaller saws. And it worked perfectly, and it was actually the perfect size for it, as you can see here. And I just kept just making the hole a little deeper until the little tea light candle was at the same level as the top of the pumpkin. And then I simply repeated the same process to the other pumpkins, and this is how they turned out. And of course, to compare, if I would have purchased all three of them from Pottery Barn, they would have ended up costing me $247. However, mine just cost me $10. Now, if you're not into wreaths for your front door, but would still like a welcome sign, this is an option for you. Now, all you need is a wood round that you can get at your local craft store, or you can use those round signs at Dollar Tree and just simply use the backing. As you can see here, I'm just giving it a coat of white paint. And then I'm just going to use a simple stencil that I created with my Cricut. And of course, you can always use stickers for this, a pre-made stencil, or even a pre-made decal. And for this, I'm just going to be using this really nice green gold color for it. After I place it down, I just paint over all of the letters. And for this one, I decided to go with a Hello Pumpkin. I leave it to dry for just a little bit, and then right before it's completely dry, I do like to remove the stencil. And then to finish off the sign, all you need to use is just a few things. Here I had some ribbon left over and I created a bow, and then from some leftover greenery that I had and some florals, I just glued on a few pieces to the top, and that's basically all you have to do for this DIY. Some of these signs already come with a place to hang. If not, you can always add a little bit of jute string, glue it onto the back, and here's how it turns out. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a like and let me know in the comments below which one of these fall DIYs was your favorite. I have more brand new fall DIYs coming your way, as well as new farmhouse build updates, so make sure you stick around and stay tuned. I will see you all in the very next video. Until then, adios!